Welcome to everybody today. It's really, I feel like I'm talking to the family here. It's good to see everybody from Costas to Lorraine to Ryan from the Invasive Species Unit. Congratulations to the landscapers that did so well at the South African Green Industries Council Awards, SALI Awards, South African Landscapers Institute Awards of Excellence last week. Really good to see the top landscapers doing their thing in parks and Mount Edgecombe and whatever. And wonderful to see old friends from many years. We have enormous experts in the country in this particular hall today. We have pesticide experts. We have herbicide experts. We have pom-pom experts. We have biocontrol experts. If you need any questions answered today, this is where you ask the question. We have the lowest profile, high profile working for water executive here today, Ryan Brudvig. He knows everything that's going on in KwaZulu-Natal. Most humble guy you've ever come across, and you wouldn't know he was so high profile because he's not going to tell you, but I will. He is very important. So wonderful to have Ryan here. And then also the municipalities. I'm not too sure they've arrived, but the Kopo municipality was telling me Dr. Nklovo and his 5 mates are coming today. So amongst the other 14 or 15 municipalities here today, we welcome you all. So without further ado, I think it's a matter of us getting moving. We're going to talk about where we are, what we're doing. Right, where did we come from? Mornay, myself, Warren, all come from the dark ages of Guy Preston's brainchild back in the dark ages, where he's decided no invasive species legislation could be done without the assistance of the people. And to do this, he set up these forum partnerships. The Forestry Industry Partnership, and I see Roger Poole is here, the Horticultural Industry Partnership, and the Pet Trade Partnership. All of these have had sort of a history of sometimes a few rocky times, other times not. Certainly the Horticultural Partnership has been the ground-breaking, ground level for the plants, invasive plant, and how we all operated. And from that, obviously, the connections to working on wetlands and the working fors and the working for fires, they've changed their names. It's now National Resource Management Programs for environmental programs, but to all intents and purposes, it's the same system. Basically, we... there we go. Basically, we've got to remember that environmental programs and all the environmental programs we have work off is one of the last RDP projects. In 1994, we had this massive RDP project, 1.2 billion, it now is. It started at 27 million rand in 1995. And it's still one of the last RDP projects that still is in actual fact operating. And from that was spawned all these working for energies to eco-furniture factories and everything else. So it's absolutely extraordinary. In America, Roosevelt put everybody to work on roads and bridges. In this particular country, everybody was put to work in the environment. And whatever one can criticize how it's been going, or what level, or what speed, how quickly the invasive species have been working, in actual fact, we should be very grateful it was in the invasive species arena. So from our perspective, we are very marvelously grateful indeed. In terms of the social conflict that we had right at the beginning, the jacarandas in Pretoria certainly were the issue that I came along in. I got a phone call from Guy Preston, who said, basically, listen, the scientists say that all the jacarandas should be cut down in Pretoria and Johannesburg. Society doesn't seem to think it's such a good idea. Perhaps we need some stakeholder engagement. So, yeah, we certainly did. Amendments had to be made to those ideas. We didn't cut down all the jacarandas. And in actual fact, but it was a good start on the whole operation. Fast forward 20 years. From the jacaranda issue, we still have conflict. Conflict has been part of the whole invasive species issue. And the conflict has been right the way through to the point now that we have the conflict on dragon fruit. We have a dragon fruit that in actual fact is category 2. And we also have a species that is not category 2. So we have a category 2, the white dragon fruit, which is actually listed. It's a listed invasive, and category 2 is very difficult to sell in retail areas. Then we have the pink dragon fruit, equally just as invasive, but in actual fact this particular dragon fruit is not on the list. So in terms of our friends in the media, and Tanya in actual fact phoned me up and said, Kay, I'm putting this in as my major feature for the December magazine. Is that okay? I do remember you guys going on about, banging on about something about dragon fruit. We took it to our team. We actually took it to Philip Ivey at Sandy, and he said, under no circumstances should you be allowed to promote this, even if it is not an invasive species yet. So again, we're waiting for the law to catch up. Plateland, go Plateland, no such problem. They actually promoted the whole dragon fruit issue. But we've got to be very wary of the dragon fruit issue. We really do. We have another issue in KwaZulu-Natal, which is hugely important, which is the empress tree. The empress tree is a category 1A plant, but the guys who brought the empress tree into KwaZulu-Natal in 2005-06 maintained that the Department of Agriculture, Phytosanitary, gave them permission to be in the country. And so in the country they have plantations, and we have to look to see what in actual fact this tree does. We have plantations of this tree in, and there's a huge internal debate going on in government as to whether it's a category 2, whether the law should be changed, or whether we should not have these timber plantations in the country. And it's a debate that continues to go on. But certainly we've got to be aware of it. And certainly in a world where we're going very timber, we're going wood, and we're anti-plastic and all that kind of thing, we must actually make sure that in actual fact these trees don't escape from the plantations. And this is the debate that's going on. We have the environmentalists on the one side saying they're destroying native ecosystems. Only the only naturalized population was taken out in 2014 by Sandy, and yet we have actually on the other side we have the Department of Agriculture saying it's wonderful, and we say have companies saying come invest with us and we're going to plant them and we're going to transform the world. Lots of conflict still on the frontiers of the whole operation. We also need to know how to amend how we talk to our communities. This is the Springbok team of invasive people. These are the really interested people. These are the people who arrive here on time. They want to hear what's going on. And thank you very much for coming. We need you to talk to your communities. And how do you talk to your communities? Well, we're having a lot of success with social media. And we believe social media is the way ahead. All the material needs to go to your conservancies, goes out to your people. This is a PhD candidate who is doing a PhD on Patterson's Curse in the Western Cape. And what we did is we actually sent this particular press release out to probably about 10 newspapers, radio stations in the Western Cape. None of them had any time for this particular topic. We put it out on social media, no problem at all. So in actual fact, the large media, the traditional old media, has only got time for Ukraine, what Cyril's doing, or maybe, badly behaved rugby players. They don't have time to talk about what's happening in nature, so we have to do it ourselves. How are we doing it? Our biggest issue is that we're looking at issues and we are taking traditional materials. We're looking at how we promote issues that are going to be a conflict. The rose-ring parakeet issue will be a conflict issue. We are taking material as they did it in Australia. We are looking at how we're going to turn it into, make it available to everybody, and we're looking at all the issues of where it is. Now, the rose-ring parakeets are a huge problem between Pretoria and Durban. And in actual fact, we're having a lot of stakeholder engagement with the Parakeet Association breeders. There are at least 300 members there. There are 2 or 3 other organizations that also have been given the possibility of permitting. So parakeets that are permitted in cages, we all understand what's going on. But there are wild parakeets flying around. And a very good friend of mine, Ian Rushworth here from Isabella, KZN Isabella, once said, we've got to start new new issues. We've got to say, do you want to go to the Kruger National Park and the only bird you see is the rose-ringed parakeet? And is there a future for that? So in that way, we've got to actually change how people think. And we're starting to go into our first social media success. 66,000 people were reached when we asked that question, what do you think of rose-ringed parakeets? Are they a problem? How are you going to deal with them? The rose-ringed parakeet problem is a huge problem for landscapers at Gateway. Umhlanga Rocks has the biggest population of them, and I often get called by the landscapers in that area, and they say, how in actual fact are we going to deal with them? Well, I'm afraid to say elsewhere in the country we deal with them with sharpshooters, and so I said, well, you know, will Gateway allow sharpshooters in? And he said, absolutely not. So, you know, we're going to have to negotiate how we deal with the rose-ringed parakeet issue. In terms of invasive mallards, this continues to be a problem, primarily in the Cape Town area. KwaZulu-Natal, your sharpshooters went off and tried to get a few mallards in the olden days, and we had a huge complaints coming through. But primarily the city of Cape Town are the people that are really working on the mallard problem, and they have animal rights activists really demonstrating and, you know, putting them on the front page of newspapers and things like that. So there's a lot of education to be done as to why mallards are not a good idea, why we need to save our indigenous waterfowl. It is the Save Our Indigenous Waterfowl, we believe, has run its course over 10 years. It's not working. So we're actually looking for how we actually publicize mallard ducks are not acceptable. And again, this has got a lot to do with our own history. Donald Duck had bloody yellow feet, and mallards had yellow feet. And, you know, we still got this in the back of our heads that we go down to the pond on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and we feed appallingly bad white bread to ducks. Well, you know, we've got to get over this. White bread is as bad for ducks as it is for anyone else. We've got to work a new marketing campaign for mallards. We've also, in this particular program, looked at a lot of very new issues. The marine invasives issue is completely new to a lot of us. In this room, there are some very, very experienced and high-profile plant experts. And the plant experts really know the whole routine of what's what. You come into a place like this, you look out the window, we've got a rhododendron, we've got a Mexican sunflower, I mean, this is an invasive paradise we've landed in here. But when it comes to marine, it's a very different story. And we are looking at the yacht basins. The yacht basins are really where the invasives are moving around. And so our first project is basically to look at Saldanha Bay. We're trying to make friends with the mussel farming and the oyster farmers, and we're hoping that they will be our early detection team. They will tell us when the really bad invasives are coming along. And what are those invasives? Well, the plant guys have got to start looking for new identification issues. We've got to look for white colonial sea squirts, boring sponges and carpet sea squirts. And this is going to be quite something for all of you plant experts now to get your head around the fact that we've got to look for the marine invasives as well. We've also, of course, got to keep on going with the aquatic weeds. In this particular hall is the queen of aquatic weeds for the South African entire country, and that, of course, is Debbie Muir. And she, with help of a team of warriors, have to deal with some serious stakeholder issues, particularly in the dams in the Gauteng region. This is Rudderplaat Dam here. This is the Springbok rowing team that actually complained bitterly about the fact that this is what their dam looked like. We've spoken to Tshwane Municipality. They get 20% more sewage than they can handle. As a result, until they get 20 billion, the sewage will continue to flow to Rudderplaat Dam, and this is what it'll look like. And Debbie is trying all sorts of ways to combine an integrated, holistic view of spraying and biocontrol and various other issues. But in actual fact, the very high-profile landowners that live around this dam, they would actually just like to nuke the water hyacinth every week and spray it out of existence. And so there's quite a bit of conflict between the stakeholders and ourselves. So we keep on trying to do that. The green industries, the horticultural industries, in terms of plants, they've been working with us now for a good 20 years. It's very easy to deal with them. The garden centres are very happy to be launching in August this year. They're going to be launching a new campaign. They, interestingly enough, did not want to carry on with the campaign Plant Me Instead. They felt that that particular campaign was now over, we've done it, and they don't want to associate good plants with bad plants. So they said, let's rather have it targeted at the youth, and now it's going to be called What's Hiding in Your Garden, What's Hiding in Your Pond, What's Hiding in Your Region. We're quite far advanced on the campaign. We have a video kind of, videographer kind of situation now, whereby this is a Canadian youth environmental campaign with sort of these young sort of like video characters. We're quite far advanced on the campaign. We have a video kind of, videographer kind of situation now, whereby this is a Canadian youth environmental campaign with sort of these young sort of like video characters or mascots. We're going to lose the wolf, but we are trying to put the characters together, and that's pretty much what's going to roll out in August this year. The campaign has basically said they love the girl, they think the boy is shifty, so we still need to do some work on the boy. I'm not too sure why the boy looks shifty, but according to our focus groups, he's shifty. So we will find a better boy along the way. We'll change his eyes, we'll give him a bigger smile or something. The nursery industry conflict is very well explained, and in actual fact we have PhD students now in the Cape Town area who are actually working on the last of the conflict zones. These are the conflict zones: the Moray exotica, Canis ageratum and oleander are no longer conflict species. Everyone's very aware of what's allowed and what's not allowed, and the conflict species are more moving into sort of catharanthus and what they can grow and what they can't grow. And certainly over the years they've had enough time to work a lot of these things through. So what we will be doing is we'll be taking, there's the Mexican sunflower, certainly it seems to be this week is the mascot for Durban. I'm seeing it absolutely everywhere. So we'll be putting these out for the EMIs, and today it's EMI Day, Environmental Management Inspectorate. And welcome to those environmental green scorpions that are here and are not talking. I see they're in the audience, so there are a lot of green scorpions here, which means that there are going to be a lot of very, very knowledgeable people in the room. So this is the day to ask the questions. And all the EMIs, the green scorpions, will be given all of these pamphlets that we are creating, so they will be able to arrive at doorsteps with information, and all of this information will be downloadable from www.invasives.co.za in the next month. In terms of the cactus invasions, we are working very closely with the highly regarded Rhodes Centre for Biological Control. Martin Hill and his team with Ian Patterson do a terribly good job. We have lots of workshops with them, and we will be basically rolling out, building on old material. Hildegard Klein has got a fabulous new book out on invasive cactus. I think it's a year old, but if you take all the COVID eras, which is just sort of a non-2 years, it's a new book. And then, of course, we'll be looking at lots of social media. We've developed about 60 or 70 social media packages, which we'll be putting up onto the websites, and you as conservancies can download the 4 pictures and the copy, and then send it out at your leisure on your own Facebook feeds. So the idea is to share this material. Creating material for Facebook is terribly, terribly difficult, and it's time-consuming like you can't believe, and you don't always get the right pictures. So we are creating basically a library of the worst invasive species, and we are hoping that you will actually send that out on your own Facebook feeds. Why do we need to do this? It's terribly important. You know, we've got the whole cycle of invasives. This is an expert, highly knowledgeable audience, so I'm not going to go through it particularly, but here we have the prickly pear invasion. Biocontrol wins along the way. By 1958, the same. Tannisberg Mountains and the Crawfordnet area are clear of invasives, and then sure enough we have a huge problem of torch cactus. We were in the Bloemfontein area a couple of weeks ago, and there's no biocontrol yet for it, and so we need the scientists, and we have scientists, biocontrol scientists in this room. So I cannot tell you, if you've got biocontrol questions, today is the day to ask the questions. And then, of course, we have to go to the lowest level. The lowest level of nightmare, which is the counting holidaymakers that drive down to the Cape, and on their way back, they see, after all the rains in the Karoo, they see these incredible flowers, which they think is absolutely fabulous, where they're cut off. They've never seen them their whole life. It's brand new. They'll take it back and they'll put it into their Johannesburg gardens. So we have a proliferation of humans that's taking this godforsaken, dreadful plant and planting it all over the north of the country. So again, we do need to inform people that this is not acceptable. Again, this is in our project that we've been working for the last year. We have looked at quite a few projects with the Centre for Biological Control. What we did is in November, we sent out a media release to all these radio stations and said, any farmers that would like biocontrol to deal with the cactus in their area, very welcome to phone up Rhodes University. They'll get free biocontrol, and we will get rid of the cactus, or hopefully get rid of the cactus on your farms. Not a single radio station ran with our media press release. Not a single one. They just simply, community radio stations have their backs against the wall. They have no advertising. They're hanging on for dear life. They can't do it. They just can't do it. Traditional media is absolutely down to the bare bones. So again, we put a lot of effort into this promotion. Traditional media could not deal with it, which means again we have to create our own media, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're putting all the Cactus Working Group material into Z-folds that are basically you can download. It's 2 A4s, and you can do it for the provinces, and there certainly is a KwaZulu-Natal and a Mpumalanga special edition on the cactuses. We also are moving very much into invasive animals and invasive animals generally. Amongst your group here, you have the king of invasive animals, which is Ian Rushworth. He's the absolute king of house crows, and he will be talking about that later today to say what's happening in KwaZulu-Natal. And we obviously are dealing with, we have reptile experts here. Warren Schmidt is here. He's a top South African reptile expert. He will be able to work with you. And of course, we've just come from the Eastern Cape, where everyone is talking about all these deer that are rolling around and nobody wants to claim ownership to them, but they still all earn a massive money from the fallow deer that roam freely across the farms of the Eastern Cape when they have their American hunters coming through. We are very politically correct. This is, elsewhere in the world, this is called the Asian toad. We're about to run a smear campaign on it, so we feel a little embarrassed to call it the Asian toad. So we're going to call it the black spine toad. That is its other name. And Durban is the focal point of this entry of this particular toad. It's coming in through the Durban harbour, and people in KwaZulu-Natal have to seriously be on the lookout for this. This is a baddie, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare if it gets through. We haven't worked on a campaign yet, but we are working with all the reptile experts on where it's going to go, and we do realise that we have to be very careful. That the concept of go out and kill toads is really not acceptable. We have to actually do identification. In the Cape Town area, they have the western leopard toad, and they obviously are very, that's a very big deal. And that is an indigenous endemic. We have the indigenous guttural toad. So we have to identify, and here on the right-hand side, we will put social media packages together on the Asian toad. I'm not going to talk much about this. This is really Ian Rushworth's field, but we are putting together, we're using the old material for both Australia and the material that my team has put together for Cape Town, and making sure that we don't confuse it with all the indigenous crows, and then on the other side here, looking at where the threat is. Then on to the shuttle borer. In January this year, we had to inform 250 people in the Stellenbosch town hall that shuttle borer was making its way down the road to Stellenbosch, and it would soon be in Stellenbosch. There are now very good videos from the top academics of Stellenbosch University to say it has arrived. Now, 80% of Stellenbosch is exotic trees. They have those incredible old oaks. And I mean, there were some very traumatized people in Stellenbosch to hear that in actual fact, in 10 years' time, the word out that is in Johannesburg, all the arborists say, in 10 years' time, there will not be an English oak in Johannesburg. And that concept in Stellenbosch actually rather was traumatic to the village of Stellenbosch. As you go up the garden route, George has been very badly hit. I do know that you have it here as well. We are worried terribly much about the indigenous forests. But nevertheless, there is a huge team working on this, and we pay homage to the guys who really are with it. We've got Martin Hill from Rhodes, Professor Willem de Beer at Victoria's Family, Francois Roets is in Stellenbosch, and they have got a team sponsored and funded by Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment for PhD students, master's students who are all working on this. I know Heather is a PhD student working at Fairfield to see what's happening there. So they certainly are working on it. We've moved away from the area where there's hysteria. At the beginning of the Struggle thing, it's just hysteria. When the news on our forests is an absolute nightmare, what can we do? We've had a lot of interchange with the Californians. The Californians take it as Struggle War is here, it's here to stay, it's not going to change. So let's not have hysteria, let's rather tell the public how we're going to deal with it. So, what does the public do? The public must find out how many holes in each. So when they say, oh my God, I've got it, you say, okay, please help us. Go back and find out how many holes you've got. How many branches are dying? What level is this tree? What investment is this tree? This is, don't expect you to see all the details, but basically the top area here is low value trees, the bottom is high value trees, and this is a matrix of management. How do you deal with shotthole borer? What are you going to do about it? At what level, what hazard level, and what must you do at every level? So this is a management plan for shotthole borer. There's no answer for shotthole borer, and we don't have any solutions for it, and they don't have any solutions from California or Israel. So we just have to manage the whole problem. And we also have to be very aware that in actual fact it can be managed. Campaigns overseas are very much don't move firewood from one area to another. And we haven't got this right. Sandparks said no new wood into the sandparks and national parks. And then of course, so there's so many people going into sandparks that didn't have enough wood. It wasn't dried 6 months in advance. The whole firewood thing is a big issue. And it takes processes and it takes work. So we do have to work as a country on making sure that this protect your area. But we've got a lot of material from America, North America, South America. There they do it for the Asian longhorn beetle and the emerald ash borer. Very much to say, you know, this is how you deal with it, and this is why you don't move infected wood across the country. Again, quite delicate for working for water, because obviously working for water is aimed at the poorest of the poor, and a lot of the poorest of the poor make annual income out of forest wood, firewood. So again, very difficult for all of us. Finally, towards our sort of wrap up, we have put together information on what does it do, information on how you manage it on festive properties, how you report it on government properties, and we are developing communication issues that when people come to you and say, what do I do? You can send them to invasives.org.za, and in the next month all this material will be up and we will be on our way, and we will be able to download it from the various operations. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to have you here. I do appreciate it. Thank you very much to the high-profile people here for being here.